Good and Erev Shabbos, good and Chodesh. It's still before Chatzos. I guess I could say good morning, but it's 12:20 in New York, so good afternoon. Good and Chodesh. Sorry for the late start. It is Rosh Chodesh, and Rosh Chodesh is always starting late. Um, Baruch Hashem. Maybe a month of Ani Hashem Lofecha is Iyar. Everyone should have the food that they need, being Ruchnis, from Gashmis, so we should see all good things for the coming month. Shefer bracha v'atzlacha. Mashiach is coming. And we zoche to bring the Pesach Sheni in the Yerushalayim Rakodesh. Amen. Okay. Today's shiur is Lilei Nishmas Aaron Nachman Simcha Koyin Shul Mordechai Mishav So Bracha Sava Shmuel Lev and Binyamin Moshe Ben Yosef. May the Neshama shall have an aliyah and refuah shlema to Yisrael ben Rachel Leah, Rachel Bas Zelda, Aaron Yitzchak Marisha, Chai Bas Bela, refuah shlema b'sof Shar Chol Yisrael, and special Shefa Bracha V'Atzlacha to Tzvi Noach and Bracha Rachel Leah, and special shout out to our dear friends at the Imperial Advisory Group. If you need help with your CFO stuff, please reach out to them at imperialgrp.com. Here we go. Perek Yit Aleph. We have three more Perakim of Kesuvos. We're wrapping up Kesuvos on Monday, Rosh Hashem, and we're starting the Darim on Tuesday. Very cool. Here we go. Perek Yit Aleph. Almana Nizones Minichse Yisomim. A widow is supported from the property of the Yisomim, of her husband's orphans. Meaning that the Yorshim must pay for the widow's food and other needs until she collects her ksuba or until she remarries. In return, her work belongs to them, meaning that they're entitled to the money she earns from her work, and she must do some basic household tasks for them. So, in exchange for supporting his wife, the husband is also entitled to the money that she earns into certain household tasks, as we spoke about last week in Perek Dalet and Perek Hey. His heirs, the Yorishim, also have the same rights as long as they are supporting her. And it's always, you're assuming here that the heirs are supporting their mother, because it's the assumption of the husband. You think that the almana is their mother, so it's like in my mind, it's like I don't understand like where the mitzvah kibbutz the aim starts and ends, and where the requirements to supporting her, because they're not saying it's supporting their mother. It says that they're supporting his wife, I mean their father's wife, or it's a little bit. I don't fully understand this. I don't get it clear. Like that, you would have aim. Of course, you would support your mother, but don't know. However, they're not required to take care of her burial when she dies, because that is the responsibility of whoever inherits her ksuba, and the husband's heirs do not inherit her ksuba. So even though a husband must pay for his wife's burial, that's an exchange for his right to inherit her property when she dies. So in our case, where the husband dies first, and neither he nor his heirs inherit her, they need not attend to her burial. Also very interesting. Instead, her heirs, who are the ones who inherit her ksuba, are required to take care of her burial. So Mistama, okay, so these kids are not necessarily her kids, but rather they're his kids. But her Yorshim are the ones who have to take care of her burial. So that makes a little bit more sense. But if it's just his kids, it's not hers, and it's a second marriage, then they wouldn't have to support her. Okay, that makes a little more sense then. Mishnah Beis. Amar ben min ha'erisin ben hanisuin. Regarding a widow whose husband died during erisin, during the engagement, in which case she is entitled only to her ksuba payment and not to support, or during nisuin, in which case she is entitled to support. Malcheresh lo bebeistin. She may sell property from her husband's estate even without approval of the court, because her husband would not have wanted her to suffer the embarrassment of appearing in court. Rabbi Shimon says, "Minani suin mocheresh lo bebeistin." If she became a widow during the shul, when she was fully married and is selling the property to support herself, she may sell it without first going to court because we cannot expect her to starve while she waits for the court to hear her case. I guess back in the day they also had schleppy court proceedings. It's not just in like 2026. Man, it might not be. It might not have been as bad as it was now, but I guess it still was a schleppy case situation back in the day. Ben and the Erisin of Simkar Ella based in. But if she became a widow during Erisin and is selling her property for her ksuba, she may sell it only with the approval of the court. If nay, she'elam mizonos, because she has no right to support. The chol she'elam mizonos lo simkar ela bebeistin. And any woman who has no right to support may sell only with the approval of the court, since she does not need the property to buy food, but is merely collecting her ksuba payments. She can wait for the court's permission. Mishnah Gimel. If someone sold, if she sold some of her husband's property for her entire ksuba payment, or at least part of it, Mishkana Ksubasa O Miksasa. Or if she set aside property worth the value of her entire ksuba or part of it as collateral for a loan, Nasna Ksubasa Acher O Miksasa. Or if she gave property worth the value of her entire ksuba or part of it as a gift to another person, Lo Simkar Es Hashar Ela Bibestin. In all of these cases, she may not sell more of her husband's property to collect the rest of her ksuba, except with the approval of the court. Once a widow gives away even part of her ksuba, she loses the right to be supported by her husband's estate. Therefore, any property that she sells later will be only for her ksuba and not for food. Since she is not selling it for food, she must go get the court's approval, as we taught in the previous Mishnah. When the Chachamim say, she may sell her husband's property little by little, even 4 or 5 times, as often as she wants, in order to collect her ksuba. And she may still sell other property for her support without asking the court, because a widow is entitled to support even after she collects part of her ksuba. Because Sebes the Mizonos Macharti, and whenever she sells property, she should be careful to record the purpose of each sale. That is, meaning that when she sells property for food, she should write on the bill of sale, "I sold it for my support." And when she sells it for ksuba, she should write, "I sold it for my ksuba." Otherwise, it would look like every sale is for her support, which gives the impression that she needs a lot of food. That might discourage men from marrying her. Okay, so until now we were talking about a widow, and now we're changing into a divorcee. A grusha lo simkar ela bebeistin, a divorcee who wants to collect a ksuba may not sell her husband's property except with the approval of the court. Unlike a widow who can sell his property on her own, a divorcee must always go to court first, since the man does not care if his divorced wife suffers embarrassment. He cares about his widow. He doesn't care about his divorced wife. So you can go to court. I'll see you there. And I'll see you there. Mishnah Dalit. If a widow whose ksuba was worth 200 zuz, so property worth 100 zuz for 200 zuz, or she sold property with 200 zuz for 100 zuz. In either case, she has received the ksuba in full and cannot take any more. In the first case, she received 200 zuz from the sale of the property. In the second case, the heirs gave her property worth 200 zuz. The fact that she sold it for less is her fault. So another ruling. If ksuba was worth 100 zuz, and she sold property with 100 zuz and one dinar, which is 101 zuz, for 100 again. She sold property with 100 zuz and one dinar, meaning 101 zuz for 100 zuz. Michrabata, her sale is void. Since she is owed only 100 zuz, she has nowhere to sell property with more than that, and the entire sale is bottled. Filu he omeres achzir dina the yorshin. Even if she says, "I will return a dina to the yorshin," so that they will receive the full value of the property and not lose any money. Mechra batal, her sale is void because she should not have sold it in the first place. The light, please. Third one. The third one. Number three. Thank you. Um, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Omer. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, sorry for the interruption. The lights got turned off by accident. Leola Mechrakaya. Her sale always stands as long as she returns the extra dinar to the heirs. Unless there was sufficient property in the estate that she had sold, only when she was supposed to sell. Again, if unless there was sufficient property in the estate that she had sold, only what that she had sold, had she sold only what she was supposed to sell, there would have been enough left over to be considered a field or garden. But by selling the extra portion, she deprived the heirs of a field or garden. The sale is void in this case, even if she compensates them for the extra that she took. So, what's the legal definition of a field or garden? In the case of a field, an area of 9 ubegina bas kav. And in the case of a garden, half of a kav. Ukidivri Rabbi Akiva base rova. But according to the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, the size of a garden is not half of a kav, but rather a quarter of a kav. The next law. Haisa ksubasa arba me'ozuz. If her ksuba was worth 400 zuz, and she sold property worth 100 zuz to one person for 100 zuz, and a second property worth 100 zuz to a second person for 100 zuz, and a third property worth 100 zuz to a third person for 100 zuz, is selling the correct dollar amount to three people. To the last person, to the fourth person, she sold property worth 100 zuz and one dinar for 100 zuz. Then the halacha is shall achron batal. The sale to the last person is batal. Since at that point she already collected 300 zuz and had the right to sell only property worth 100 zuz. Shall kulan mechron kain. But the sale to the other people stand, since each sale is made separately. Only the sale that harms the yorshim is batal, but the other sales are not affected. Mishnah Shum Hadayanin. If an appraisal of the property was made by the judges, Shepichaso Shesus Ohosifu Shesus, who valued the property at a sixth less or a sixth more than its actual worth, and then they sold it for the mistaken price. Mechran Batom, their sale is Batom, it's void, because if they sell it for too little, then the Yorshim lose. If they sell it for too much, then the buyer loses. And Shimon ben Gamliel says, Mechran Kayin, the sale stands, even if they sell the property for a sixth more or a sixth less than its value. In Cain, Ma'akaf based in Yafa. If it is so, meaning that the sale is void, what would the power of the court be worth? In order to reinforce the authority of the court, the Chachamim decreed that a sale in this case is final. But if instead of saying the price on their own, they made a letter of inspection, meaning the judges of the court they made a letter of inspection, um, where where they announced that the property is ready to be inspected by the public and sold to the highest bidder. And fila machar shavamana b'masayim o shavamana or shavamasaim b'mana. The law is that even if they sold property with 100 zuz for 200 zuz or property with 200 zuz for 100 zuz, michra and kayim all agree that their sale stands. Since they let people inspect the property and sold it to the highest bidder, it is not their fault if the price paid was too low or too high. Mishnah Vav, the last one for today. A girl who refuses, a girl that she was orphaned and she was married off as a child by her mother or brother and then ends her marriage, which she can simply do by refusing to be married anymore and leave her husband. She's under the age of 12. Hashniya, a secondary erva, meaning a woman who's married to a relative who's derisa permitted to her, but the rabbanan is aser. The islandness and an islandness, being a woman who has certain physical characteristics that show that she can never have children, a fact that her husband found out only after he married her. In each of these cases, if she is widowed or divorced, she does not receive any money for ksuba. Below payros, nor does she receive any produce of the nichsim elug that her husband ate during the marriage. Below mazonos, nor for her support. Below belos, nor for the loss of value of her worn out nichsim elug property. But if from the beginning he married her knowing that she was an islandist, the marriage was kosher because there was no mistake. Therefore, therefore she does receive the ksuba payment as well as the other rights listed above because he knew she was marrying an islandist. Now, the next list of people, women are usher and married to be married, but yet they do receive a ksuba. Who are they? No surprises over here. Almana Kohen Gadol, a widow who is married to a Kohen Gadol, Grush v'chalutza the Kohen Hedron, a divorcee or chalutza who is married to a regular Kohen. Mamzeres or Nasino Yisrael, a mamzeres or Nasino who is married to a regular Jew. Basis Bas Yisrael Nasin Mamzer, and a regular Jewish woman who's married to a Nasin or a Mamzer. Yesh Ksuba, they do receive the Ksuba payment even though their marriage is usher. Unlike the secondary ervas, who is penalized with the loss of ksuba, these women are not penalized. And that's it for today. We'll see you on Sunday. Have a wonderful Shabbos and Kol Tov and a good Chodesh too.